Hello everyone, this is Tyler here. We are well into winter time and it is very frigid here in Estonia. I'm going to actually discuss a topic related to that area, and that's my favorite winter cold weather places for MGTOW guys to live. And this obviously is an area where I think a lot of guys, especially older guys, tend to prefer warmer climates. They like the more temperate places, but I think there is a class of guys, especially younger guys, but also some older guys who want to have a more natural climate pattern year round, and they do like cold weather. They like snow. They like this type of season. Okay, first place is Russia. I think Russia is a very interesting country. Apart from the country as a whole, economics, and the overall environment and how it's changing, it's becoming more and more pro-capitalist, lower taxes, pro-business. And I also think that from the weather perspective, from the climate system, awesome place. I mean, you can ski, you can play ice hockey, BL, and there's just great winter weather there. And this is really cool place. Obviously, to think of Russia as a very big country. It's very vast. When you look at the country of Russia, the latitude of Russia actually sits on the most southern point is actually like southern Canada. In most of the country is within the region. The latitude would be like that even with Canada, up towards like Alaska. Say like St. Petersburg, Russia would actually be on the same latitude as southern Alaska. That gives you kind of an idea of just how north this country is. And that's not even like close to the most north. I mean, you have cities like Murmansk that are even quite a bit higher, 1,000 miles or so above St. Petersburg. So this is just tells you this is a very like cold, and it certainly has very prolonged winter time months. The next place is Belarus. Belarus, of course, it has a lot of similarities to Russia. It's also different. I think the first major difference is that it's much smaller population-wise, and it sits closer to Central Europe, but it also has very beautiful winter months, and I think it's not as cold. It's probably a little more temperate because the proximity, the latitude of Belarus is actually lower than Russia, and it's also almost a landlocked country. You don't have the mountains or some of the diverse geography we have over in Russia, but you do have nice winters, and like the major cities look very pretty in Belarus, just like in Russia during the winter time. And cool place, as I've mentioned before, great economics, developing very rapidly. They're becoming slowly more of an IT/engineering hub of Europe, and they also offer optimal tax rates, very reasonable living cost, very good dating scene, just like in Russia also. That's a huge benefit. And this is just something to note, that when you look at a lot of Europe, a lot of the dating scene, subpar on average, I would say now, but if you do like, especially being with European kind of women, Russia, Belarus are two of your best countries today, because as we know, the whole social environment's really changed and evolved quite rapidly in much of Europe. Okay, the third winter country is Serbia. Serbia, obviously, they don't have as strong of winter months, certainly much more temperate than like in this part of the world. I'm in Estonia, but they do experience a alright winter. And I know this year, for example, they have gotten snow. They've had colder months in general than they have in years past. And they also, as I mentioned before, have great economics. It's a rapidly growing country. They have very reasonable real estate prices, living costs, tax rates. It's just all around. It's a much smaller country. Also, it's around 9 million people. So this can be a big plus if you like smaller countries. And winter is not too extreme. And also remember, you're close to the mountains. So if you like to ski or something, they certainly have mountains that are nearby, and you can actually ski during like winter months or go to like neighboring countries in the Balkans that all offer phenomenal skiing. This is definitely at the top of the list here. Next country is Armenia. Armenia obviously is a smaller country. Many people don't realize that much of Armenia it's actually very mountainous. Many people may have heard of Mount Ararat, which is very famously spoken about in the Bible. And this whole country actually has a lot of cool geography. It's virtually the whole countryside, and it's fairly nice because when you're lower in elevation, it's fairly decent weather. It's not too cold in the winter. If you go up into the mountains, you'll certainly get snow, and you have very beautiful places up higher. And then if you like it like warmer, you can just go lower. And this is one of the great things about Armenia, being that latitude wise it's closer to like the Black Sea. It has kind of the right location so that year round it's never too cold, but it does have very nice winter time, especially if you go higher up. Also very rapidly developing country, very developing banking system, dating. It's more traditional, I think. Also, compared to other countries in this region, it has a very optimal dating and relationship environment if you're interested here. And also, like many smaller countries, they are trying to attract people. They obviously are, I think, much more pro-business than many Western countries, and just are really trying to get more foreign people, foreign capital. This was a country, obviously, former Soviet Union. So much of the foreign influence until recently was like Russian and other like Eastern European, Central Asian exposure. Not as much Western, whereas now it's really attracted that crowd. Also remember that Armenia, historically, very Orthodox kind of country. So this element is probably still there to a degree if you like a country that's a little more traditional minded. And just, I think, offers pretty good standard of living year round. Consider this one. The next place is Ukraine. Okay, Ukraine has a lot of similarities, of course, to Russia. Ukraine, of course, has two main languages, Ukrainian and Russian. Russian is actually spoken on the eastern side most of the time. Ukrainian language actually is more common in the western part of the country. Also shares similarities to Russia. It's probably maybe less intense, you could say, of an environment. The winters here are also probably a little less extreme than you have in Russia because it is a little lower in latitude. But remember, like in western Ukraine, you have the Carpathian mountain range that runs right on western side of the country, so you can actually get to mountains if you like this terrain. And through most of the country in the winter you're going to have some snowy, colder months, but nothing too extreme. And they also do love their winter sports, and people like in this part of the world as a whole are quite adapted for this type of weather system. And like other places in Eastern Europe, dating and relationships, very, very optimal. It's certainly a great place in that sense, especially for younger guys. And you can also enjoy a very nice standard of living for a good price. Look at the currency and how it's kind of ran compared to the dollar and euro. You find really good prices for like living, rental, property, or purchase even, and for other like entertainment, to eat out at restaurants, to do whatever. There's just a lot of great deals, especially if you're making an income that's even considered pretty good for the country. You'll be living pretty well in this country. And the last place is maybe surprising for some people, but I would say it's both Austria / Switzerland. These two countries, two different countries, they're close in region, but I would give these two places a close tie. I've spoken extensively about both countries in the past. Like over in Austria, yes, it's not as living costs aren't fairly as optimal as other countries, European places, but certainly has really cool winter. It's very close to mountains. Has mountains when we think of places like Salzburg, and it's a very like nice place to be in the winter, snowy months. As I've said before, economically, like tax-wise and these areas, not as good, but it's not the worst either. And keep in mind too that often in Austria, I think you get what you pay for. If you're looking at kind of from a holistic point of view, if you like it kind of more Germanic, in this kind of more Germanic Alpine influence, this is definitely a cool place to be. It's and they love like their ice hockey and skiing, snow sports. I've actually been skiing in Slovakia, but I know a lot of like Austrians will go to Slovakia, which is nearby, and ski. That's a cool thing. You're in Central Europe, so you're pretty close to these kind of ski places. And in Switzerland, I've mentioned before, I focused mostly on like the larger cities, the two main cities in Switzerland, Zurich and Geneva. But in smaller communities in Switzerland, I did some research, and it's actually not as bad price-wise. And it's a very laid-back, tranquil place or country to be. These towns are very pleasant, especially in the wintertime. Very, very beautiful country. Probably one of the most notorious scenic countries in the winter months. Also more expensive, like Austria, but it's like a second home base as a second residency, even if you're not living there year-round. Cool place. You obviously also love like skiing and hockey and like mountains. There's other kinds of winter-based activities, cross-country skiing, and also events that you can go and watch in person. And or just like if you like driving, I used to love driving like on winter roads, like on snow and stuff. Also cool places, you can do some pretty cool things there. Like Austria, more Germanic, if you like kind of this Germano Alpine influence. These are two very cool places to be. They're just interesting. More expensive, of course, higher taxes. You won't be going to like restaurants for as cheaply as you would like in Belarus, but there's other pros that you can enjoy. If you need like some kind of employment work in one of these countries, probably be able to find a better kind of job in one of these countries that pays enough to live sufficiently and actually be able to survive, because some of these countries like Belarus in certain sectors, very low paying jobs, and you need to have your own source of income. So for people that need kind of to rely more on the ecosystem there, more optimal place like Switzerland, Austria. These are my main picks here, and this is very subjective. There's different things that go into play here. As I mentioned, just know winter destinations, these are colder places, especially in the winter, but some people like myself, I like these kind of places, and so other people are the same way. So give me your feedback below, and thank you.